This is going to be a very interesting video. When it comes to anything, it's in anyone's nature to have an opinion on something, and every time a majority of an opinion on something is fated to be loved or hated, depending on a near consensus by most people. That being said, because we're all human beings, driven by developing and creating our own choices, our psyches can perceive things and perspectives differently from others. Because let's face it, if we were all the same with the exact same opinion, this world would be boring as shit to live in. Hot takes, or unpopular opinions, are a perspective on something where the individual does not agree or see the things that everyone else does. If something was universally hated, one person can end up loving that thing, or if something is loved, there's always going to be one person that hates it. Civil discussions and debates help us grow as individuals, after all. Like I said, this is going to be an interesting type of video. The Q&A series I recently started doing in June made me realize how much I love interacting with my audience, and I made a community post about asking you guys to share me your biggest hot take, or hot takes with an S, as some people did share me multiple of their hot takes, from specifically video games. And I'm also going to share my own perspective of your opinions and tell you whether I agree, disagree, and mix on the opinion, or I just flat out don't have an opinion at all, and give you my reasons as to why I feel this way. With all that said and done, let's begin.
Hot take: the intermissions in Mario Kart World are good. Forcing them in online still sucks though.
I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I haven't played Mario Kart World yet, and as someone who was intrigued by the concept of the intermission tracks, it's understandable why you find them good. I do think it's weird that 2 out of 3 laps don't really have you on the main course itself up until the final lap, but there are points I can give the intermission tracks for ambition alone. Whenever I play Mario Kart, I primarily just do the standard versus races after I finish the Grand Prix, so the intermissions probably wouldn't be a big deal for me. I say probably because, again, since I haven't played the game, I won't know if I will like them or not. And based on what I heard, the intermissions aren't in versus races and time trials, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, no, forcing them online was not a good choice by those at Nintendo who made that decision, so this opinion, I don't have one myself.
Okay, here's mine. Some people gotta stop treating every single MC like they're the golden child of gaming.
I don't know if this is hyperbolic, but if it's not, there are MCs that are hated, obscure, just simply good and great, but not golden child status. I'm not sure if this is a hot take, but I will say that I do agree with you.
I got one. PC gamers are hypocrites. Lots of times, they'll go off on 10-minute tangents claiming that console gaming sucks, and that PC gaming is where it's at. They act like they're better than everyone else, even though they too ignore the pitfalls of their own metal brick, like the cost of the parts, the multiple systems you need to set up for emulation, and how finicky actually building a PC is. They're no better than all the console fanboys, and just like the console fanboys, they're willfully ignorant of their problems.
I agree with this one 110%. The console versus PC war is getting really old. In fact, it has been for the past decade. Maybe more. Console gamers have their own stuck-up moments, but those that prefer to play on a PC are no better, and in some cases, much more annoying to deal with. Much like with consoles, not everyone has the money necessary to buy a really good gaming PC and or monitor. Some people like myself are stuck with playing games on a laptop, which while I still enjoy the games I play on that thing, it could be one of the absolute worst ways to play certain games on PC. Do I give a fuck if a console port of a game on PC is the inferior version? Do I care if you think Mortal Kombat 1 on PS5 is inferior to the PC port? If it's the version of the game I want to play, it's the version of the game I want to play. Same vice versa. If I want to play Penny's Big Breakaway on PC rather than console, then that's my choice. PC and console gaming both have their pros and cons, and in several areas they share the same cons. Of course, not every PC gamer is a white knight and blind to the PC's problems, but there are those that'll praise PC gaming like it's God. When you realize how much more needlessly complicated PC gaming can be with emulation setup, modding, checking to see if your game can run smoothly due to your graphics card, and even building a PC, some people are definitely gonna turn away from that, and that's perfectly fine. you have every reason to prefer playing on PC or console. But it gets frustrating when it turns into this petty-ass war about one's fucking personal preferences. There are better things to complain about in the gaming sphere. Dick riding / blindly defending your system of choice and forcing your opinion down other people's throats is not one of them.
Sonic 06 is a good game, that's my hot take.
I can't agree or disagree because I haven't played Sonic 06, but I understand why you would see it as a good game, so yeah, no, all the power to you.
Not sure if this is a hot take or a new belief people will agree with me on, but I must say that Nintendo is up there in the leagues of the greediest gaming companies with EA, Ubisoft and Activision.
I genuinely think it's a new belief people will agree with you on, and I'm in the same boat as you. Nintendo may still make great games, but if we put the art aside for this specific moment, the pricing for shit is getting even more ridiculous. Seriously, $80 to $90 games, which mind you is $120 to $130 here in NZ, but prices for Nintendo Switch Online, though that's nothing new, and after your comment was made, the Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 bundle being $70, and even Amiibos having raised prices. Yes, these things, fuck's sake. There's probably a few more examples of Nintendo's greediness that I missed, but yes, I agree with this.
Major hot take. A game doesn't have to be good actually. With my evidence, it might not be that hot of a take, but hear me out, take Undertale. Right. A lot of people's favorite game in the history of ever. Yeah, that game is coded like straight sweaty butt cheeks literally. If one line is removed, which is just a text file that reads Big Boner down the lane, all of the dialogue in the game just packs its crap and leaves.
Honestly, yeah, games like Sonic Frontiers and Penny's Big Breakaway are unpolished games, yet they are still well liked by their fan bases. Cause yeah, a game doesn't have to be completely polished in order for it to be considered good, but it still does leave the other side thinking the games are bad because of said issues, which is also understandable. It definitely leans into personal preference whether you think a flawed game can still be good despite its issues. I do, and I agree with you, because I have a lot of games I think are very fucking good, but there are still a lot of flaws that I don't like. It's not the same as the term guilty pleasure, just to clarify. Games like Sonic Frontiers, Devil May Cry 4, Lightning Returns, Penny's Big Breakaway I loved a bit, and I think are really good games, but they are also flawed as hell. So yeah, I agree with you.
Deltarune is better than Undertale.
I understand why. Maybe you like the combat more, the story, and the music more than Undertale. However, because of the fact that I have not played Undertale and Deltarune, I can't form an opinion on this.
Jet the Hawk Snapcube fan-dub voice sounds better than his in-game voice.
Personally, I'm not a fan of saying whether fan work is better than the actual thing or not. It's a pet peeve of mine. So due to that, I am gonna disagree, but on its own though, Snapcube Jet is still pretty funny.
My hot take, Splatoon 3, Side Order is not a good DLC. Story is non-existent, the bosses I do not care about, and don't get me started on Order, the main villain of the Side Order. It is just Commander Tata, but worse.
Once again, I don't have an opinion on this because I have not played Splatoon 3 at all, so yeah.
Sonic Adventure 1 is better than Sonic Adventure 2. I love both games a lot, and I truly believe there are valid reasons to like either one more. Personally, I love all of the Gamma playstyles minus Big. The controls are some of the best in the entire series, the spin dash is a lot better, the level design is more to my liking, and the soundtrack I do think is a lot better too. With the second game, while the controls are good for the most part, I don't like how the mech characters were handled too much in terms of that. I think the Emerald Radar handling isn't suited well for this game, the button mapping is bad. And even though I still love the speed characters Gamma play, I find the level design to be a little less interesting. The story and extra content is great though. This is all my personal opinion, and you may disagree. Also, FNAF 2 is mediocre.
I remember back when I made my top 10 favorite Sonic games list, which was my last countdown before the channel rebranding, I put Adventure 2 over Adventure 1, and to this day, I still stand by it. I still am in the camp where I think the Emerald Radar in Adventure 2 works perfectly fine for the game. The only times where I felt like it didn't were Mad Space and Media Herd. The Emerald hunting stages in Adventure 2 felt like I was actually hunting for them much more than in Adventure 1. But Adventure 1 is still goated with the Knuckle stages. but I completely understand where you're coming from. In terms of the mech stages, really, the issue to me is that they feel a little bit slower when compared to the mech gameplay of Gamma in Adventure 1. The only problem with the controls for the mech stages with Tails and Eggman is turning in the opposite direction. Trying to move backwards or forwards feels really clunky and odd, but the mech stages are still great. I've never had problems with the game's button mapping as a whole, and I can understand the level design for the speed characters to be a bit more uninteresting, but to me, I personally prefer the speed stages by a slighter margin in SA2, only because there's not a single one I hate, unlike SA1 with Casinopolis and Skydeck. But as for the soundtrack in SA1 being better, oh absolutely, but only by a slight margin. So yeah, I disagree, but I completely understand why you prefer SA1 over SA2. And as for FNAF 2 being mediocre, I haven't played a FNAF game, so I cannot say.
God of War 2018 is not a 10 out of 10 masterpiece like a lot of people say. Don't get me wrong, Kratos is amazing, the graphics are amazing, and the music is stellar, but the game feels way too slow, and even though I love Kratos, I don't really care about the other characters, especially Atreus. Good god, I hate that kid. He is so annoying.
I haven't played the 2018 God of War game, so I don't have an opinion on the game, but I can understand why you think the game feels too slow, especially in contrast to the Greek saga where Kratos felt much more fluent in combat. But that's only because both sagas go for a different style of hack and slash. As for Atreus, I never really found him that annoying, probably because I tolerate him a lot because he is a child character, and hence a child character acting like, well, a child is kind of the point. However, in no way does that mean you can't criticize the execution of how a child character is interpreted in a piece of media. As an example, there was an interview with Sonny Solijic, I hope I pronounced that right, Atreus' voice actor, and he found himself annoyed with his character constantly giving out hints for the puzzles in God of War Ragnarok, and whenever he's trying to do the puzzles, it gets to a point for him where he is sick of hearing his own voice sometimes. So yeah, I don't have an opinion on God of War 2018.
Hot take, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing is miles better than its sequel Sonic Racing Transformed and Team Sonic Racing. I'm willing to give Cross Worlds a try, since they are bringing more Sega characters besides Sonic, and making it a better TSR, but before that game was announced, I feel like Sega Racing is more enjoyable than the other games, since it has a good roster, chaotic gameplay, memorable tracks, and great music selection from past Sega games. Sonic Racing Transformed, on the other hand, is weaker because of the questionable character roster that adds new bizarre ones and cuts old familiar ones, a decent but slower gameplay, abysmal tracks, too much synth/dubstep music, though some of them are a banger, and overall, an inferior sequel to the first game. And they didn't even try with TSR. The game is totally dead, as in having a small roster, a tedious story mode, and forgettable tracks. Plus, it got ripped into shreds by the remake of Crash Team Racing, which was a much more memorable game for die-hard fans of Crash Bandicoot, though the music of TSR is spot on and the customization is great. Given that we live in a Sonic Renaissance era, I just hope the next game is just fun and memorable. I mean, it has Joker and Steve of all game characters in it, fool.
In terms of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing being much better than Team Sonic Racing, I 100% agree. Though I don't believe that opinion in particular is actually a hot take. But better than Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed 2? I disagree big time. With Team Sonic Racing, it's a fine game, but it was definitely a game that was lacking. While I wouldn't say the story mode was tedious nor the tracks were forgettable to me, I didn't like the writing in TSR specifically, and my issue with the tracks was that most were kinda uninteresting. But I will say I do agree that the roster was too small, and the music and customization are great. But Team Sonic Racing was just lacking in content to keep the game alive and replayable, so to speak. With Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed, I thought the roster was the best the series has ever had, the track design was really fun and some of the best in Sonic Racing history, the music is phenomenal, and the amount of content the game had kept it fresh. World Tour, Grand Prix, the single matches, all that shit was great. Racing Transformed is my favorite out of the three, but Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing is still great as well. The character roster is mad underrated, but track design is awesome, but content was awesome, especially with missions in the shops. Transformed to me is a better game, but Sega All-Stars Racing is still a fantastic entry. So yeah, I half agree with it being better than TSR, but half disagree because of it being better than Racing Transformed. So, mixed.
5 hot takes. Clockwork should have had more prominent roles and still be alive after Sly 1. Sega needs to stop overreacting and changing Rouge and Amy so much, just because of problematic stuff in the past. Chunky Kong needs to come back, just so people stop claiming that he's dead. Mario Pinball Land needs a remake. Grabbed by the Gowlies, Cameo and Donkey Kong Racing should have been the last games Rare made for Nintendo, before being sold to Microsoft.
Ooh, the first of many multiple hot takes. Okay, so I'll go over these individually. For the first one, I disagree because I think killing off Clockwork at the end of Sly 1 was a smart move. Because his influence haunts the Cooper gang to this very day, so even in death, he still has a very big role. The plot of Sly 2 Band of Thieves centers around Sly and company to retrieve the Clockwork parts that were stolen by the Claw Gang, and splitting the individual parts between each member for their own purposes. Hell, the final boss, Claw is an amalgam formed by the body of Clockwork and the mind of Constable Nayla. And after the fight, while Bentley attempted to remove the hate chip, Nayla clamped the beak shut, paralyzing Bentley permanently, with Murray mentally scarred by Bentley's paralyzation, thinking of himself as a liability and leaving the Cooper gang in search of a spiritual censor. In Sly Cooper Thieves in Time during Chapter 3, you can find a treasure reward known as Clockwork's Eye, which survived the destruction of the hate chip, and the in-game description states that it lended truth of Clockwork's final words to the Cooper gang, but they have not seen the last of them. It's clear that Clockwork's haunting influence carries over to every other game, and even Sly 3 to a little extent, with Murray rejoining the Cooper gang after defeating Octavio, casting aside his pacifist ways. So if Clockwork were still alive after Sly 1, there would have to be way too many drastic changes, and I think it would have made the series storyline less interesting. Death is never the end, and it can also shape people's lives and fates, either to grow and evolve as individuals, or to be haunted. Anyways, let's get on to the second one regarding the Rouge and Amy take. I'm gonna be so honest, I don't believe it is due to Sega's overreaction. In fact, I'm a little bit confused on what you mean by that. With Amy, is it due to how she's no longer obsessed with Sonic? And with Rouge, is it because of the censoring of her back? Because with Amy, while yes, she is no longer completely obsessed with Sonic, I am in the camp where this is much better for her character. She still loves and cares for Sonic, but her not being as obsessed anymore genuinely makes her a more fleshed out character. No longer a damsel in distress, but someone who can properly hold her own more than ever now, especially in Forces and Frontiers. And with Rouge, if this is about the back, I genuinely think it's very arbitrary. Like really, the only issue with it to me is the fact that the raised suit covers up the wings, and with how big they are, it makes it impossible to put on. Alphon, if you do watch this video, if this isn't what you meant, I do apologize, and clarify what you meant in the comment section down below. Now, with Chunky Kong needing to come back just so that people can stop claiming he's dead, to be fair, I would like Chunky Kong back too, but not because of the meme, but because it would just be nice to have him back alongside many of the others in the Kong family in a future DK installment. Besides, I believe the memes are irresistibly funny. With Mario Pinball Land needing a remake, I wouldn't say it needs a remake. Personally, I just say want a remake rather than need a remake, but honestly, I'd like to see Pinball Land getting a remake one of these days. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is rather unlikely we'll be getting a remake of that game anytime soon. It would be cool though. And as for the Rare games, fun fact for those that don't know, Grab by the Ghoulies was originally going to be on the GameCube before Rare got bought by Microsoft. So while it would have been nice to have it be one of the last Rare games before the buyouts, I don't believe it would have ever happened due to the day of the beginning of Grab by the Ghoulies' development cycle, and the day of Microsoft purchasing Rare from Nintendo. The same for Cameo as well, but worse since unlike Grab by the Ghoulies, Cameo spanned 4 consoles during Rare's protracted development. the N64, the GameCube, the Xbox, and then finally on the Xbox 360 as an exclusive for that console. And with Donkey Kong Racing, from what I read of its development, while it's sad a potential sequel to Diddy Kong Racing got cancelled, and especially since it got cancelled a month before Microsoft bought Rare, I don't think it would have been possible for them to have finished DK Racing before the buyout. Game development isn't easy, and while it would have been great for these games to have been Rareware's last Nintendo titles, it would not have been highly possible, so I'd have to disagree, unfortunately.
Here are mine. Resident Evil 4 is not a Resident Evil game. Battlefield 2042 is more fun to play than Battlefield 1. Doom 2016 is a better designed game than Eternal and Dark Ages. Synthesis Ending is the best ending in Me 3.
So the last three are all in the category of I have no opinion on this, especially the Doom one because I have played Doom 2016 but not Eternals and the Dark Ages. But I have heard how good those games are. But then there's the Resident Evil 4 hot take. It's not a Resident Evil game? How so? Is it due to the fact that it was the first game in the series to use the third-person shooter perspective, rather than the fixed camera angles that were used in every Resi game up until the release of 4? Or the fact that it's more action than horror? If it's the latter, then that's free to criticize for being more action-y than attempting to scare the player. But I disagree with this heavily because I personally don't believe that Resident Evil 4 did anything to warrant it not being a Resident Evil game. It's still survival horror, and just because the game focuses more on action and shootouts, doesn't mean it's not a Resident Evil title. That said though, if you do end up watching this video, Hunter Crimson, I would actually like to hear what the reasons are that you don't consider RE4 to be a Resident Evil game.
Yokai Watch is a better franchise than Pokemon. Mario RPG is not an amazing game, it's fine but it is no GOAT. Undertale, while still amazing, is kinda hollow due to both time and having more contemporaries, fan-made, inspired and official. Sonic's reused level themes isn't a problem because they reuse themes, they are a problem because they do nothing with it.
Once again, I have no opinion on 3 out of the 4 of these, but in terms of Sonic's reused level themes, I 100% agree with this, because yes, the recent entries in the Sonic series are very much allowed to bring back level themes from Sonic's past, and I think people tend to forget that to be the case. Don't get me wrong though, I too am also tired of seeing levels like Green Hill and Chemical Plants everywhere, but if one of the major purposes and selling points of certain Sonic games is reusing levels from the cast past, then I am perfectly fine with that. Mania, Crossworld, Sonic and Shadow Generations, all of these games are perfect with bringing back past levels because they serve a purpose. With Forces, we underutilized the concept of bringing back Green Hill and Chemical Plant, making those particular levels feel nearly pointless. And with Frontier cyberspace levels, there is a reason because the terrain in cyberspace is constantly shifting due to the dimension itself gathering data from beyond the Starfall Islands. And as a result, it shows elements from various locations from all around the Earth and the rest of Sonic's universe, all of which appear to be based on the visitor's memories. However, the element of reusing the level design in different reused sceneries does feel incredibly strange, and I think they could be better with not reusing all level designs, but rather more of the older sceneries from Sonic's memories. Also, this concept was strangely underutilized in terms of how it's told, because if I remember correctly, it was never told to us except for one optional dialogue conversation with Sage at the game's final Starfall Island Uranos. So yeah, I agree with this. The Sonic series can bring back previous locations, but only if they truly serve a purpose and if it's a selling point. But more games with no unoriginal levels would be a breath of fresh air. Last game that did that was Sonic Superstars.
The 4-Kids era of Sonic is better than the new era. It made the characters memorable, and yes, I know some of the games we got during that era were less liked, Shadow, 06 and Secret Rings. But, they were memorable in their own way, and I honestly love 06. They did Shadow justice, and made him so fun and memorable.
I love this current era of Sonic, but I actually do agree with this. Well, excluding loving Sonic 06, because aside from Project 06, I haven't played the original. But I think the voice acting for the series was mostly at its peak during the 4Kids era of Sonic. especially with 06, Secret Ring, Zero Gravity, Unleashed, and Black Knight as highlights. And while I still love variety for what we got nowadays in the Renaissance era, variety for the Dark Age/4Kids era had and still has some of my favorite stories ever conceived in the Sonic series, with Adventure 2, Secret Rings, Zero Gravity, and especially Unleashed and Black Knight being some of the best stories I have ever seen in the series. Hell, I especially love the entirety of Sonic 06's story despite its many issues. And that does mean Sonic and Silver's stories too. Like, that game's level of tone was truly magical for the time, even to this day. Also, hell yeah with that Shadow take. It's not an unpopular opinion per se, as I know almost everyone loves how Shadow was written in 06, but it brings up a best in Shadow. He's serious and focused on the task at hand without being over the top about it, but he also deeply cares for those he deems as closest friends like his team of Rouge and Omega. And especially not caring that if the world chooses to become his enemy in his fated future, he will continue fighting without change, even if humanity hunts him down out of jealousy and fear after the world's destruction by Endless's flames. So yeah, I do agree with you on this.
This one's more of a general thing, but it can also apply to games as well. If you personally don't like a creative decision made by a company, for all that is holy, please don't claim that the creators of said creation were lazy unless verifiably true. There are so many videos claiming Sonic's modern models of the series' characters were made lazily, just because they looked off to them personally, and it's honestly become such a pet peeve of mine. If a game wasn't play tested beforehand, the writing of a game's story lacks flow, and feels haphazardly put together, and other stuff like that, using the term lazy would be appropriate. But if you're claiming that a piece of art or a model looks lazy just because you personally don't like it, then that's literally just subjectivity talking.
I agree with this one. I really don't mind if you personally don't like something in an art piece because no creator is going to be perfect. I also don't mind if anyone isn't a fan of any of the Sonic characters' models, as long as it doesn't cause a pointless and necessary debate. Personally, I don't see any of the character models in the series to be lazy. But yeah, an art piece isn't lazy just because you just simply don't like the model, because of how heavily subjective that in and of itself is. There needs to be actual reasons why an art piece is lazy, like if an artist just scribbled in with the coloring and called it a day. So yeah, I agree with you on this.
Playing games for score is usually more fun than speedrunning them.
Damn right. Whenever I'm playing a game, especially in momentum-based platformers like Sonic, I do attempt to speedrun a level and get a better time, but I also found it slightly more satisfying to get a better score. I remember when I played Call of Duty Advanced Warfare with my cousin at my auntie's house, I would try to see if I could kill him a lot of times to get the most kills in him. I don't believe I ever did. In rhythm games, I fucking suck at them, but when I get a higher score, that tells me how much I am improving at getting the timing right on the notes. That rhythm game in question being the Band Club and Persona 5 of Phantom X, a turn-based gacha JRPG. Yep. But yeah, speedrunning games are great, but sometimes playing for score is so much better, and it benefits a lot more in some games when you're combining score and speedrunning together. Get the agreed sticker of approval.
The Legend of Spyro, The Eternal Night is a good game.
I don't have an opinion on this one because I never played any of the Legend of Spyro games, and despite the fact that they were very mixed in terms of reception, I definitely want to give them a shot at some point. Poor Spyro needs a new game. The Reignited trilogy was just simply not enough to truly say that Spyro is back.
I got a couple. Saints Row 4th is unironically a good game. Red Dead over GTA. Kimby loves boss fight in No More Heroes 3 is worse than Jasper Bat JR's boss fight in No More Heroes 2.
I don't have an opinion on Saints Row 4, but after playing a good chunk of Saints Row the Third back in 2022, it makes me really want to try out the other games in the series, especially Saints Row 4 with how the game makes it hard to take itself so seriously. With Red Dead being better than GTA, oh man, I play a lot of GTA games, but only a small bit of Red Dead Redemption 1 and some parts of Red Dead Revolver. I can't say yes right now, so I disagree, but I definitely want to get more into the Red Dead series. And while I haven't gotten to the Kimmy love fight in No More Heroes 3 yet, damn, it's worse than one of the most infamous final bosses in all of video games in your eyes. Well, when I get my own copy of No More Heroes free, I'll definitely see it for myself, but right now, I don't have an opinion on that.
Sonic's story in 06 is in my opinion the weakest. He doesn't meet Mii-Files, or even interact with him, before he kills him at the beginning of the final story, and most things don't even feel like a Sonic story within that chapter. Shadow and Silver are definitely the MVPs of the game, whereas Sonic just feels like he's trying to be something he isn't.
I know I said earlier that I love Sonic stories, so I agree, but not for the exact same reasons. Because that Sonic story is the most that centers around Elise and the dynamic between the Princess Soliana and the Blue Blur, I would be fine if Sonic and Elise grew to be very close friends, but the fact the game incorporates Elise as a love interest for Sonic just makes a lot of the story and chemistry between the two incredibly fucking weird and forced. But I do agree with you where I felt Sonic never getting the chance to actually meet Mephiles before Mephiles kills Sonic just felt a bit underutilized. I understand Mephiles is supposed to be the manipulator trope of a villain, one of my favorite types of villains ever by the way, but he is also not afraid to get his hands dirty as evident in Shadow's story. Just strange that two of the three main characters encounter Mephiles a lot while the third character, the main character of the whole franchise, does not ever encounter the main villain of the game once. So yeah, overall, I agree with you.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, absolute peak of all absolute peaks cinema.
I want to clarify that Janice Rivera did state that they misread my post a bit, but I'm gonna answer it anyway because why not? And to be fair, it technically is an unpopular opinion. Because while it is on the general consensus that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a fantastic Smash Bros. Game and most do consider it the best, it's an unpopular opinion because of the fact that no one does consider it the absolute peak of all absolute peak. I share this mentality as well because Smash Ultimate is great, but it's not perfect as some traditional side modes were removed from previous entries, such as event matches, and some of the side content did feel meh. But other than that, it's a fantastic Smash Bros. Game, one of my personal favorite games in fact. So while I agree that it's a great game, I disagree only because I don't think it's absolute peak media, but I definitely understand why. Alright, and one more hot take comment to go through.
Ultimate Custom Nights trailer is pretty good.
Haven't seen it, so I don't have an opinion on it. And with all that said and done, this was a good time. Thank you all for sharing your hot takes with me. It was fun seeing interesting perspectives on stuff, and while I didn't agree with everything, I understand and fully respect all of your opinions. However, before you completely leave, there is one thing I do want to share, hence I'm going off script for just a few more seconds. Since I got to know all of your biggest hot takes, we're not quite done here, because I plan on making a follow-up video to this one. I've dealt with all of your hot takes, and in the sequel video, you lot will be dealing with mine. Thanks so much for watching. I'm User1Campbell, and I'll see you all next time.